Hey y'all, welcome back to Soul Shift. It's me, Dani, and today it's going to be so much fun because we have my husband here today. Hi, husband.
Hi, wife.
Today, fun fact, is our 7th anniversary. It sounds weird when I say it like that, but it is our 7th year married today, and we decided to record this podcast. Today, we are just going to answer some of the questions that, well, mostly me. Christopher's friends, guys don't really like chime in about that, right? Like they don't ask you about that kind of thing.
Like what kind of thing?
Like since I had the ectopic and then I was pregnant, people always ask me little things like about the ectopic, recovering from it. I feel like guys don't get those questions about like what was it like for your wife or anything like that.
It never really comes up in that nature. It's usually like, oh, hey, this guy's about to be a father, and then I'll just try to download whatever advice I can think of, like on the fly.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so I get a lot of questions about it. And honestly, I'm usually pretty open, but this topic usually kind of turns me off a little bit, freaks me out. So I feel like now that I have the podcast, I've made a YouTube video about this before, but it was very brief. And I had not, oh no, I had Nova when I made that video. But just a lot has changed. We are further in a different place in our marriage. And it'd be kind of cool to talk about this with Christopher. So if you have either had a tough pregnancy, thinking about having a baby, want to know just if you're just curious, nosy, because that happens, this might be for you. So I had an ectopic pregnancy. Did you ever know what those were before we had one?
No,
me either. I'd never ever heard of an ectopic pregnancy, and it was very scary and it was complicated and it was kind of painful actually. And then we got pregnant with Nova, which she was considered high risk. Did you know they considered that a high risk pregnancy?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they consider her high risk just because of the previous ectopic. Once you have an ectopic, I guess you're always at higher risk for having one. So when I first got pregnant, I didn't have to go into the hospital or to my OB for an appointment until like 8 or 9 weeks. When I had Nova, as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I had to go into the hospital for checkups every week, blood work, everything. And I actually had hyperemesis gravidarum when I was pregnant with Nova, which is, you know what that is?
Do I know what that is?
Yeah.
That's when you are very sick the whole time.
Very sick, yeah. So it is, they call it HG, but it's just severe morning sickness. Just sick all the time. Can't even keep water down most of the time.
It was rough.
It was pretty bad. And now we are here and we want to go through it all again, kind of. Like we want another kid, but we really do think about all that stuff that we did just to get the one that we have.
I definitely do. It's just I don't know if I can watch you go through that again. It was really bad.
Yeah, and it's what people have always said is true. Like once the baby comes, you really do. I don't want to say I forgot about it, but I didn't care about it that day. Like once she was out, I didn't think about being sick for 9 months. I didn't think about the ectopic previous. I was just happy that she was here and it was great. But now, and I really haven't thought about it up until we started talking about having more kids, where I really do think about what my body had to go through during that time.
Yeah, you were really a soldier, like doing it, and you had to like drive into work. We had crazy commute.
Yeah, I was still teaching at the time.
Yeah,
it was not easy. It probably would be easier now. We're in a different place now.
Yeah.
I'm usually working at home, and with my job now, they would be pretty flexible with me, I think. But then it was just not even an option. I was so sick. The thing that also scares me now is that we do have Nova. So being that sick with Nova would, to me, just not be fair to her.
Yeah, it's a lot more to balance.
Yeah, because she has some expectations for her parents. We are not in charge in this house.
Yes, my princess.
She is a princess, and someone made her that way. So what I figured would be the easiest way to go about this is just answer some of the questions that y'all sent in, and they're on my phone. So let me hop on over here. All right, first question. We'll get through as many as we can because I don't, want to make it too crazy long. We could do a part 2 if we need to. Maybe we'll get Chris to come back. So it says, what was the most challenging part of the ectopic journey? Well, I feel like we're going to have very different answers for that. For me, honestly, the most difficult part was after it was treated because I had to get blood draws I think it was like 2 or 3 months of just getting your blood drawn every week to make sure that your HCG levels, which is like the pregnancy hormone, completely depleted out of my body. So I had to go every week to the point where now my veins are blown. Like they're kind of black. And when I go just to get routine blood work, it takes forever. I have to usually get it in my hand or up on my bicep because my veins are just destroyed from that process. Do you remember that?
Yes.
It was pretty terrible. That was hard for you.
I think like anytime your partner's going through something that's that difficult, you know, it's just trying to be there for them emotionally and trying to gauge what their needs are and make sure, you know, that you're good and just, you know, it's not something that you can just fix. You know, I'm an engineer, so like I want to, you know, solve the problem. That you can't do it overnight. So it's just that's always a challenge.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't feel like, because when we had Nova, you had great, like his company gave him wonderful leave for, what do you call that? It wasn't, I don't know.
Why am I blanking on the word?
Me too. But you were
maternity leave.
Yes. He had, I think 3 months, and he could spread it out whenever he wanted. Like he could do 2 weeks here and like another few weeks there if he needed to, based on my schedule. So it was great. But for the ectopic, I don't think there was like any special leave for that.
Yeah.
So he got off early the day I found out I had it, and I think he went back. Like we found out on, I think, a weekend, and he went back on Monday. There really wasn't a lot of leave for that. So I really was dealing with a lot of it on my own while he was at work. So that wasn't easy. Is there anything you wish people understood about ectopic pregnancies? I wish people just knew what they were, because I didn't know what it was at all.
Yeah,
like at all. And from what I found out after the fact is that there's these little pains and feelings that could make you think it's an ectopic, but it's difficult because number one, if you've never been pregnant before and you're growing a human, you feel a lot of things. So you don't know what you're feeling. Like, is that a red flag? Is that normal? And you don't want to be running to the doctor for every little, you know, movement you feel. So, but I just didn't know what it was. So I didn't even know what to look for or to feel.
Yeah, when you're a first time going through that, it's probably kind of hard to gauge.
I had no idea. And honestly, even talk to our families, neither of our families have had ectopics.
Yeah.
So no one could guide us on what was going on. Now this is, how did you handle the physical recovery after ectopic? So I kind of talked about that. It was just kind of struggle through. I didn't really have anything else I could do other than to struggle through, because when you have an ectopic, you have the option of having a surgery and having your tubes removed, or you can do what I did, and I got methotrexate shots, which is a chemotherapy drug, and they inject it to dislodge the embryo, I guess you would call it, from your tubes, and then you have to go through, I forget what the process is called, but they have to flush your tubes out. It's really painful, and then you have to do the blood draws after that. So that's what I did. It was painful. It's a forced miscarriage basically, and not great. And there's really nothing, like Chris, there's nothing he could do. Like, I just have to go through it. There's no medicine, no ibuprofen or anything makes it better. You just gotta suffer through it.
Yeah.
And well, I will say it is not great, but the actual physical pain part, it ended within 3 days, and then I just had to do the blood draws after that. Oh, this is an interesting one. It says, what was your emotional reaction when you found out that Daniel needed a C-section? Let's see how honest he's going to be.
That entire experience there was just a roller coaster because of the entire, tale. But when I found out, I was worried because I didn't really want you to have to get surgery. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of panicked a little bit.
You could tell he was actually drained as soon as she said we'd go to C-section. It was different because in the beginning, I did not want a C-section. I was very sure that I could give birth naturally. I was very certain I could. And then I was in labor for almost 30 hours. So by the time they told me I could get a C-section, I was excited. I wanted a C-section because I was exhausted at that point. I don't think I've ever been that tired in my entire life. And my mom was nervous about the C-section as well, because it is, like, looking back, didn't really realize how big of a surgery a C-section is. It's a major surgery.
Yeah, and actually, like, now that I think about it, like, as I reflect on that entire thing that happened, it all had just happened so fast. I was like, now I'm like, man, I was really worried about Nova and you and all that, but
Yeah.
it just happened so fast. And they're just like, she's getting sick. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about just the process of getting to this is that I don't think a lot of people know that after we had the ectopic, we had a chemical pregnancy after that, a miscarriage after that, and then we got pregnant with Nova.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't talk about it or tell people that, but I got positive pregnancy tests 2 more times before we had Nova. So by the time we got to the hospital, it was like, look, what do you have to do to get this baby here safely? Like, just do that, because it was a long road for me. It was physically a lot for me, but I feel like mentally you were probably drained at that point.
Yeah. I mean, they put us through it.
Yeah, she's worth it though.
Yeah.
It says, what causes an ectopic to occur? I don't know what causes it, but it's when you normally get pregnant, it implants in your uterus, but an ectopic implants in your fallopian tubes. So there's that. How's it diagnosed? You go for your first ultrasound, and when they look in your uterus, there's nothing there, but you can see a heartbeat and everything, but it's just not in your uterus, and that's how they know. And that was actually, do you remember us finding out about it?
Yes.
It's one of the, I have a very vivid memory of that day, because my mom got off early from her meeting to go meet me at the hospital for the first ultrasound, because Chris had something happen in his building. Like, he's a building engineer and he had to be there. So we were going to FaceTime him for the first ultrasound. And we got in there. They told me to FaceTime him. And the doctor looked at my mom, was like, maybe you guys should call him back later. And I was like, what? Why? And it's because it was ectopic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very strange. Treatment options. I think I kind of mentioned that. Surgery or the flushing with the shots. Would you change your treatment method if you could go back? No. I would do this. If I already had children, I may choose to do the tube removal if I was okay with just having the child that I have. But in our case, we hadn't had kids yet, and we really wanted to do that. So I knew that removing my tube lessened my chances of getting pregnant. So I just went through the other way of having to go through the blood draws and everything, so that I had a better chance of getting pregnant. But you gotta do what's best for your body. Symptoms. Did you not have any symptoms? So the symptoms, you remember the lady we saw there who had an ectopic that night?
That is my main memory of that entire situation, because this lady I thought she was giving birth.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, she's got the same thing that Dani's got.
It was very strange that we went in there, and first of all, my appointment was 9 a.m. that morning. We didn't leave the hospital until 2 a.m. in the morning. Because we were there for hours and hours. And the lady across the hall, she also had an ectopic pregnancy. And when I say that she was screaming, I don't even think I screamed that much in labor. Now, I do have a high pain tolerance, but she was screaming. And I remember the doctor telling my mom, like, this is how she should feel right now. Like me. They said I should have been feeling that way.
I can still hear it.
And I have a high pain tolerance, but the way that she was screaming, I just don't know how I didn't. Like, it just, I don't know. But she, like, yeah, it is forever in my brain, because she was in complete agony. She could not function at all. I don't remember, what was the original? Oh, the symptoms. So those are the symptoms. You have a lot of pain. You have a lot of pain in your abdomen and your fallopian tubes, and I didn't have that. I don't know. I really didn't. I didn't have that. What's the risk of keeping the ectopic? I think if you keep it, it could rupture. And well, I had a really poor experience with my OB during that time. When we found out about the ectopic, her exact words to me were, if you keep the baby, you both will die. If we do treatment, then only the baby dies. Those were her exact words to me. And that is because it will rupture and I will bleed out internally. So you can't, it's not viable. You have to make a decision. What advice would you give parents facing an unplanned C-section delivery? It'd probably be different because for me, I trusted the doctors enough to know that if they're telling me that it's time to go in there for a C-section, I'm fine with it. And I was in so much pain and so tired. I was ready for them to just put me out. I don't want to feel anything else. Take the baby. But I feel like Chris may have a different point of view.
It's weird because there's so much going on and you're trying to gauge your wife's safety. And at that point, they basically just told me, hey, we got to do this to make sure that Nova's okay.
Yeah.
So there really wasn't too much decision to be made. It was like, all right.
Yeah, it wasn't optional anymore. Yeah. And earlier it was, I would say probably about 8 or 9 hours before, they had asked me if I wanted ectopic, if I wanted a C-section. And I remember asking them, okay, the pain isn't that bad right now. If I can't do it in an hour, can I get a C-section? And they said yes. That was a lie. I could not do it in another hour. They came back probably, like I said, 8 or 9 hours later and told me I had to because Nova's heart rate kept dropping. So once they said that her breathing was being affected, it was enough. It was time to get her out. Do you have fears about future pregnancies and how they might affect your relationship? I don't. Not for a relationship.
No, I think that it would be I won't say it'd be a breeze, but it would be a lot better compared to last time. I definitely think I would be more aware. I'm a much more mature guy now, and I think I did a good job then, but I'd be way more attentive to what you need and like being able to take care, because I've kind of done it before, so the things wouldn't be new. It wouldn't, like, things wouldn't be getting missed that I probably wasn't really as perceptive of the first time around. I think it'd be a lot better.
Yeah. And I was 26 years old when I had Nova, like when I was pregnant that first time. And now we would be in our 30s. Yeah. So it's a whole different perspective, even though I don't think we were immature, but we definitely aren't as wise as we are now.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we let stress us out then definitely aren't even a factor now. Like, you can't even, it's really, and that's why I said relationship wouldn't be an issue, because at this point we are so sure about what we want and what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And we're so protective of Nova's energy and her space. There's nothing that would really like sway us either way when it came to pregnancies or birth or anything like that going forward. The only only standstill, honestly, is, am I going to have HG again? I'm not even worried about ectopic. I don't think I'm going to have another one. My fear is, am I going to have HG? Because I don't know if I could throw up and I mean, when I talk about morning sickness, it's not.
Yeah, it's not morning sickness, y'all. This is like, she's going to.
Yeah, and it could be like how we're just talking and I don't feel sick. I could just throw up at any moment.
And any smell will set it off, just immediate.
I think I got up to, it was at least 10 to 11 times a day that I was throwing up. And if you don't, well, obviously, I wasn't eating, because if I ate anything, it came back up. So Nova wasn't getting nutrients. I had to go in for IV so that she could grow, because I couldn't even keep water down. And that's something that I think needs to change, is as first-time moms, you're not listened to enough. So I was telling my doctor, this is not normal. I am very sick. I can't keep anything down. And they were kind of like, just wait till 12 weeks. Like, this is part of pregnancy. It's not easy to grow a baby. Like, I remember them dismissing me for months. And I knew it wasn't normal. Like, this is not how it should be. And my cousin was pregnant when I was pregnant. She was pregnant with twins. And she was not having that same experience at all. So I knew this just was not normal. So eventually they finally gave me some pills for the morning sickness. I had a cousin where it totally stopped hers, it dulled mine. So I went from probably 10 to 11 times throwing up to maybe 5. So that was a win for me because I could at least leave the house, because 5 compared to 12 was better than what I was doing. But still, throwing up 5 times a day for, the next 8 months or no, it was probably 6 more months, was not great.
Yeah.
At all. But you're right. The smells were crazy. I could smell anything.
Mm-hmm. She's like, are you making peanut butter and jelly downstairs?
Yeah, I was upstairs in our house and he was making a PB&J and I could smell the peanut butter from upstairs. I don't think we knew I was pregnant then.
I think that was the first sign.
Like, I think that was when he was like, are you pregnant? Because I came down the stairs like, what are you cooking? And he's like, I'm making a peanut butter and jelly, but I could smell the peanut butter upstairs and it was making me feel sick.
Dead giveaway.
Huh?
I said dead giveaway.
Yeah, it was not good. It says, how did your C-section recovery differ from what you expected? It was a lot easier than I expected, but I think that my pain tolerance kicked back in after labor. I've never felt pain like labor before, ever. Like, I completely think that I was so weak during that process. It was just I've never been in that much pain in my entire life. Like, I remember, I feel like I blacked out at some points. I've never been in pain like that. I don't want to scare anyone who's having babies, but it was real for me. Just get I don't want to tell anyone what to do, but there is no prize for suffering through labor. There is no other, you're going to get the baby regardless, whether you get whether you get the epidural, the C-section, you're going to get the baby. There's no reason to put yourself through that for longer than you have to, because it is the most, pain now is nothing like that at all. So once I had the C-section, the surgery pain was nothing after 30 hours of labor. I don't know the answer to that one. Sorry. It says, what are the chances of having another ectopic? I honestly don't know. Can you prevent an ectopic? I don't think so. Oh, how did you and your husband realize that your pregnancy symptoms were more severe than typical morning sickness? I would say just feel like I couldn't do anything.
I mean, it wasn't just like morning sickness. It got to be a point where it was like just smelling certain things I was
waking
sick
up in the middle of the night to throw up.
Yeah.
I was choking on my vomit some nights.
Yeah,
where I couldn't.
It was more than once an hour it was happening. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I was telling my doctor, this isn't normal, because once I'm asleep, I should be fine. And like Chris said earlier, I was still working. So I worked an hour and 15 minutes away from the house. So I would have to get on the Beltway and come home. There were days, and this is not a joke, and I mean, kind of gross, but I always had to pack extra clothes because I'd be driving on the highway and have to look at the road and just throw up in my floor in my car multiple times. That happened so many times. My poor dad, he worked in the same county. He would have to come and help me with my car because it was just anything. I was just throwing up all the time. And I remember thinking for a while, what a blessing though. As long as I'm throwing up, she's fine. I know she's okay in there because I'm still sick, which is crazy. But that also comes from having the ectopic before. I just wanted to know that your baby's okay. So this says, Christopher, do you feel like Danielle's identity as a mother has changed by the trauma she experienced? That is a Christopher question.
I don't know how to answer this. You're a great mom.
Thank you.
And I don't know if it changed your identity in any way, because I kind of always knew that you would be a really good mom. Mm-hmm. And you just done a really good job with her. And I don't know I've never really considered how that specifically has shaped that, because I kind of thought before that you would be great. So you've just exceeded expectations. I have never really looked at it from that perspective. It's an interesting question.
Now, hearing it makes me think about it deeper. I I feel like I put myself on a much lower pedestal because I'm so thankful for her. And I feel like because I know what it's like to want the pregnancy and lose it and how hard it was to get her here. And now that she's here and she's so healthy. I mean, Nova has been, when she was an infant, she was just 90%, like whatever it was, anything they tested her for, her eyesight, her hearing, she was just healthy as can be. And I was so thankful for that, that it just became, she was my number one priority over me for everything. And unfortunately, that has kind of continued. And that has been something that my husband is trying to break me out of, my mom too. But Nova just, she gets it all because I think it has. I'm just so thankful that she is here and healthy that I just, whatever I have, it's hers. And that's just what has happened. But like, I don't know if I wouldn't, would that be different if I hadn't had that? I don't know.
I don't really think, I don't think so. Because I think
that's kind of my decision.
Yeah, I think that it would have been that case regardless.
Just, I do think I was born to be a mom.
Yeah.
That is actually true. What is the biggest challenge you faced on the day for having HG? Teaching. I was teaching 4th grade when I was pregnant. And thank God, though, I had the most wonderful students and parents for that. But going to school every day and having to teach was very difficult. My principal was so great. He knew I was going through. He would come in and just be like, take a break and watch my kids for me. But it was still very hard because when I tell you, when I got in my door every day, like my husband would come in to clothes in a pile because I would just walk in and get straight in the bed because I couldn't do anything else. Like I was just in the bed all of the time. Whenever I didn't have to be out of the bed, I was in the bed, which is another thing. The thing about having kids again, when we have Nova, I can't just be in the bed all the time. It's not fair to her. She has things. She's in dance. She has school events. I can't just not go. So that is difficult. Christopher, did you deal with any fear of losing Nova during our pregnancy?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I never really thought that would happen, but the anxiety of that possibility is always there. Not really so much during the pregnancy. Definitely in the delivery room, and when they were talking about her when you were on your side and they were telling you like that, that whole crazy bit when they came in there freaking out because of her heart rate. Yeah. That was probably the worst that it ever got.
And mine's actually opposite, but I guess that it would be different. Once I got to the hospital, I felt very sure that she was going to be okay because I knew that they were watching her all of the time and that if I needed something, they could intervene right away. When I was at home, like I said earlier, you feel so many things like, is that a kick? Is that this? Is that, like, I remember one time I had a cold. I was so sick and my doctor told me to take some medicine that she said was safe for the baby. And
oh my goodness,
Nova stopped moving.
Yeah,
like she was a very, very active baby and she just stopped moving totally for hours and hours. And I was so panicked because she moved all of the time. And like, if I drank orange juice or if I drank anything with carbonation, she would move and I was drinking and she wasn't doing a thing. And I was so, so scared. And, I had to go, my mom actually took me to the doctor. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was Chris. I don't remember. We went to the doctor and she was fine, but they were like, oh, she's just taking a nap. Like the medicine made her drowsy. And I never took another medication ever again until she came out. And that was scary for me because I didn't know, like there were certain meats you couldn't eat. You couldn't drink certain things. There's all these things that you can do that affect the baby on the inside. And that was so scary. My friend brought a Doppler to have at home. We didn't do that because if we couldn't find it properly, that would have just sent us into a panic. So we avoided that. But once I got to the hospital, I felt much safer.
Yeah.
Which is opposite for, I guess that would be opposite for you because you didn't feel all the things that I was feeling. All right. This person, hopefully you sent this recently, but she is 7 months pregnant and wants to know what are the things that happen in the hospital that they usually don't tell us about. I feel like be prepared to be. I felt from the mom's perspective, I just felt like I was being poked and prodded and touched and pulled at constantly. Like it just felt like as soon as one person left, someone else came in. Like I never felt like I had a second to just like calm down and just focus ever. There was always someone there, even in the middle of the night. Like they were coming to do my blood pressure or to like always something was happening in there. I don't think a lot of people know about the epidural process. If you choose to get one, I think that was stressed Chris out the most. But not to scare you, I have scoliosis. It's rather severe. And well, we should tell him about that. I did not want to tell my anesthesiologist that I had scoliosis because by the time I got an epidural, it was like 20 hours in and I was miserable.
So you see what had happened was Dani decides that we're going to get the epidural, and was first try to do it without one. Then she decided to get it, and she's like, I know that they got to tap your spine to do this.
It's a spinal tap, yeah.
So I was like, oh, you've got scoliosis. Maybe the person doing this procedure should know that.
Yeah, and I lost it.
And so I was like, hey, babe, maybe I'm going to tell her. She's like, don't you dare. And I was like, ah. Yeah. I told her. So then when I went to go tell
the
lady,
he did. I couldn't believe it. I was like, Christopher, if they don't give me this medication, we are getting a divorce.
Yes, she was not happy with me. But I was like, I'm not going to let her just go in here blind. Yeah. Now, I told the lady that, and she looked shook. Like, visibly was could not recover. And so she was really nervous. And so Dani gets up, and it's really weird because I've never seen it done before, but they sit you up on the bed and they're trying to tap your spine. And she put her knees on me, and the lady could not get this right. So she did it 3 times?
She did it 3 times, couldn't get it. There was one point where she did it and I jumped. She's like, don't move. And I was like, I didn't. Like she had poked a nerve that made me jolt.
Yeah, it made her move.
And when that happened, the other nurse was like, I don't know the doctor's name, but she called her boss to come in and do it. And when I tell you, he came in and did it in 1 try. Like 1 try, not a problem.
Yeah.
He did it in no time.
Whew. It was bad. I was like, this lady, I was worried she was going to
paralyze me.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. And that's something that they don't really talk about enough is this epidural is great and it makes you feel better. Number 1, my epidural did not work the first time. So once, I don't know if it's because of my scoliosis, but once I had it done, I still felt everything up until they gave me a second dose of whatever when I got the C-section. It didn't go away at all. I think they also didn't tell you that your water might not break. You may go before your water breaks. Because I always thought we just wait till the water break and then we go to hospital. My water broke during my epidural.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is also...
Oh, yeah, that was the other part. So when she was doing that and she poked her, Danielle's water broke in the middle of all that. And her knees were up.
Yeah, my legs were on Chris's legs.
So it was just...
And I cried because I was so exhausted at this point, and mentally I just couldn't take any more. And now my water had broken all over him, and I was so I don't know why that made me so sad. My water broke on his jeans.
Babe, it's fine.
Yeah, he was like, "This is the least of our concerns."
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
I was just so sad that my water broke on him, and after that, and that's the craziest thing is it feels like. On the movies, your water breaks and baby's coming. My water broke and I still didn't have Nova for hours and hours after. It was a very long process. So I would say the main thing is just be prepared. Whatever you have planned for your birth, don't set your heart on it. Be flexible and be ready to know that it can change. It probably will change.
Fellas, bring a hoodie.
I was gonna say, like, it.
Cause man, she gonna have that room chilly.
I was pouring sweat. They were feeding me ice and pop. Well, no pops. It was only ice, and my room was 60 degrees, and I was pouring sweat. My dad was freezing. I was very fortunate in my hospital. I was able to have my Christopher, my mom, my dad, and my aunt in the room with me, and they were all frozen, like freezing, and I was pouring sweat, and there was nothing I could do to get any cooler. But be prepared for that, and bring things that make you comfortable, because I remember wanting to bring my own pillow and my own blanket, and I just didn't want to be difficult. Like, I didn't want to be that mom that tried to like set up shop. But looking back, if we have another child, it's going to be my room. Totally.
Yeah, and you should make it as comfortable for everybody as possible.
And I remember my one friend saying, make a playlist for them to play, and I was like, no, like I want them to be able to focus. Like, I should have done all of those things.
You definitely want to control the vibe in there for sure.
Yeah, because you feel so out of control. And I honestly need to look more into it, but I'm not even against like the midwife doula thing who like really helps you just with the focusing part. Because I feel like I got so out of my head. Like, I don't want to do a home birth. I don't want to do a water birth. I don't want to do any of that. I want to be at the hospital with all the drugs, everything there. I want all of that. I want all the doctors. I want the operating room. I want all of that. But I would definitely have someone there to help me just focus. Like, I don't want to hear anything other than someone that's going to help me focus. And husbands should prepare for your wife to not like you.
Yeah.
She will probably be very mean to you. I don't feel like I was that mean to my family. The doctors caught a lot of heat. A lot. From what they tell me. I don't remember.
I mean, everybody was catching flames that day, babe.
I don't feel like I was mean to y'all.
You don't remember a lot.
It was a rough day. It was the best day though. I would, and honestly, and it sounds nuts, I would do it again tomorrow for Nova. Like, to get her again and have the moments after, I would do it again. But man, think about doing it for a fresh new baby. Ooh, I don't know. And once that baby gets here, it'd be worth it again. But before they get here, oof, I don't know. I just don't know. Well, speaking of babies, we have dance tonight with our baby, and we have to go and get her for her dance class and like have the ending of our anniversary day. We really have spent the entire day together celebrating and doing things. And you guys have more questions or more on there. I would love to get like in the show notes on YouTube, wherever. Let us know. Let Chris know what you thought about him being on the podcast. And send us more questions, send us more topics. If there's more things you want to hear us talk about together, I would love to invite him on. He has his own little fancy setup over there. We're working on this room, so we talked about this before, but we spent some time today thinking about what we want to do to make our office/studio better for the podcast. So that's him. We say in our house, Christopher is a verb, which means like doing the most, being extra,
means going it right,
going above and beyond. And the fun fact is that I'm the one that's called extra in our family, and clearly you don't know Danielle or Chris at all, because Christopher is the extra one in our household. Guilty. And he has now made it. He has his own fancy little mic over there, and now he has made it his task to make this a very, high quality functioning recording studio. So soon y'all will see this. Maybe by season 3. Knowing Christopher, it'll be during season 2. So we'll see you soon. Thank you for listening. And thank you, husband, for being here.
Of course, baby, anything.
And we will hopefully see you again soon. So bye. See y'all next time.
Peace.